The 2026 FIFA World Cup meal at McDonald's is underway with one of 9 legendary cups in the lineup. Christian Pulisic, David Beckham, Lamine Yamal, Ronaldinho, Thierry Henry, Son Heung-min, Alphonso Davies, Santi Jimenez. And between the posts, it's Grimace. Get one of 9 collectible cups with a FIFA World Cup meal.
At participating McDonald's for a limited time while supplies last. All rights reserved. 2026 McDonald's at FIFA World Cup 2026.
Study and play come together on a Windows 11 PC. And for a limited time, college students get the best of both worlds. Get the Unreal College Deal. Everything you need to study and play with select Windows 11 PCs. Eligible students get a year of Microsoft 365 Premium and a year of Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with a custom color Xbox wireless controller. Learn more at windows.com/student offer. While supplies last. Ends June 30th. Terms at aka.ms/collegepc.
Welcome back to the Epic Universal Podcast. I'm entertainment writer Jim Hill, and this is the podcast where we cover the latest Universal news, rumors, and history. And as always, I'm joined by Eric Hersey. But at the very top of the show, folks, I want to apologize. We did not get an episode out the door last week. That's my fault, not Eric's. Eric was actually in the field at Epic Universe. In fact, you guys stayed at the Helios, right?
We did. We managed to stay at the Helios, and a spoiler warning for anyone that was at it was wonderful and absolutely the hack that I believe you guys even kind of mentioned it on like the Case 4 when you guys did an episode about it. Chris Cox was talking about it. Boy, we hammered out Epic, and I mean, I think Lauren was keeping track. We were darn near finished with everything minus the Super Nintendo Land by noon.
She was saying that you walk out the front door of Helios and you did everything except, and again, remember, Super Nintendo World is the problematic land in the park. It's up, it's down, it's running, it's not. Lovely to look at though. But
no. But we also were out in Hollywood, which we also kind of did that. So we said, well, if there's a land that we weren't going to need to do, we didn't need to do the Mario Kart ride again and so forth. So yeah, but it was fantastic. The Helios was very nice. I mean, I wouldn't say it's. I just listened to the Case 4 this morning that you guys did. Is it the signature collection? Is that what the joke was?
I believe yes.
It's not quite a deluxe, but the location was absolutely a deluxe. So we will keep it at that.
No doubt. So, but anyway, again, Eric was working. He was literally on the job for this podcast, whereas me, I let you folks down. And some of that is because Nancy was supposed to have surgery in July, and then her doctors and her made the decision to move it to June, and that made all sorts of medical appointments and with things he had to do. And it was the Universal Podcast that fell by the wayside because of that. And I apologize, and that won't happen again. In fact, we've got a really fun episode coming up today, which is going to use Steven Spielberg's brand new Disclosure Day film as an excuse to talk about the super scary UFO movie he almost made in the 80s. But that's the feature later on today's show. But before we get to that, we have all this amazing news that Eric has pulled together. So, let's get to that. But before we get to that, we need to acknowledge our fans who have been genuinely sweet about honoring the request that Mr. Hersey made about getting out there and reviewing the show, and you got a couple of new reviews.
That's right, Jim. And as I said, as long as you guys leave reviews and comments, we'll keep reading them. So here's a few more for today. Tim JK left us a great review saying, "Great behind the scenes information. I've been listening to the Epic Universal Podcast since the very beginning. Jim and Eric have kept me engaged with stories and information I never knew. I appreciate this info as it helps me while I've been away from the parks. Wishing you congrats in advance of your 100th podcast." So this was an older one, but we appreciate it. And we did make it to 100. We have one more from Pal Macho. Says, "Fun show for Universal fans. I was pulled into Universal when Harry Potter arrived in Florida. It's been so fun. We lived in Northern California and had season passes to Universal Hollywood and took many trips there. So I really love the Hollywood coverage lately." And we pretty much cover both sides of the parks. We've been to both sides, and we'll probably talk about both sides here today as well.
That we will. But before we do that, that, we have to acknowledge our sponsor, and that is unlockmagic.com. And if you're planning a trip to Universal Orlando or Walt Disney World, check out unlockmagic.com. Listeners to the Epic Universal podcast are saving up to 12% off of theme park tickets and now have the ability to purchase Express Pass through Unlock Magic, saving even more magic. So again, before you go, be sure and visit unlockmagic.com and save today. Okay, so what is where do you want to start? Because there's a lot of news.
Oh, Jim, let's start with the ones that just broke that didn't even make it into our shared document. Jim, if something actually landed on our lap right before we went to announce today, and that is we have a new house announced for Halloween Horror Nights. Just came out. There was rumors, but this one is actually now confirmed. Jim, you want to break the news to everyone if they haven't been on the internet?
Well, it's no surprise to anyone who's been paying attention to the horror space for the last 5 or 6 years, but Stranger Things, to be specific, the final season of Stranger Things is inspiring a haunted house, a maze, at both Universal Orlando and Universal Studios Hollywood. In fact, that was the interesting thing. Clearly there was some coordination there because those two press releases, the Orlando version and the Hollywood version, arrived in my mailbox within a minute of one another.
Well, yeah. I think modern technology, either whoever was working their Constant Contact or MailChimp had them scheduled to go out at the same time. Yeah, but that's exciting. Now, this isn't the first time Stranger Things has had a house, but this came out so quickly that I didn't have a chance to go check out when that was. But Stranger Things has been, although we were only 5 seasons, it's been around for about a decade or so.
Oh, yeah.
Right? They took their time kind of getting to that final season, and I think this one will be a huge hit. I mean, Stranger Things was a pop culture phenomenon, and even when I can get Lauren to watch scary stuff, I know I've got it's a winner. So we binged the entire season going up, or the whole series going up into the season 5. So we're just a couple. Yeah, I think we're just a couple months away from the season 5 ending. So it's fresh on people's brain, and I think we're all kind of excited. So I think that's a great house. Do you think that's the signature house? That's like the main one. I know they announced Sinners first, but I mean, if you ask me, between the two, Stranger Things is a big deal.
I mean, think about it. You have the Academy Award-winning horror film from last year, coupled with this, this limited series that, think about it. They broke the final season into 2 parts, and never mind the fact that we've just recently had Stranger Things the animated series bow, and Drew, just a huge fan of how that's been done. So this is, that's a hell of a 1-2 punch to get Sinners and the final season of Stranger Things in there. It makes me think this is the year we better get down there and do this.
Jim, you're killing me.
Yeah, I know.
As if we don't have too many. The running joke.
That'll be your 25th trip this year, right?
God, right. Well, not to mention that we have Universal Kids now, we will figure out how we can make these things happen.
Okay.
But I think the only thing that could have been better is if they had a Shrek house, right? An evil Shrek house.
Well, so interesting you bring that up, because again, just today, the teaser trailer for Shrek 5 debuted, and I guess what's fascinating about this is if you're working the math here, folks, just in the past week, we've had the teaser trailer for Pixar's March of 2027 film Gato debut. We had the trailer for Disney's animated film for November of this year, Hex debut, and now we've got the the Shrek 5 trailer. And again, Shrek isn't until July of 2027, but I'll give you one guess, Eric. Which film are all three of these trailers going to be in front of this weekend?
The Toy Story, right?
Toy Story 5, which, by the way, right now is projected to have an opening weekend of at least $275 million worldwide, $250 million over its first 3 days in theaters. So that's going to be appointment cinema, which is why everybody's rushing to make sure that the trailer for their animated film is out in front of Toy Story 5. But I have to ask, did you actually get to watch the Shrek 5 trailer? Or?
Well, I feel like on Twitter and all the other various forums, I got to watch it all stitched together through various clips. So no, I did get to see some, but I mean, a lot of chat. What's everybody up in arms about Shrek's animation style? I mean,
they changed it. I mean, in fact. And it's not the first time they've done this, by the way. If you remember a year or so back when Puss in Boots: The Last Wish came out, they went with a far more painterly style. And again, this is when I say this is DreamWorks Animation for that film. Still a great story and still looked great, by the way. But it was different from the way Puss had looked in, he came on the scene in Shrek 2, 2004.
Yeah.
And what they've decided to do with Shrek 5, because it's been 15 years since, Shrek Ever After. And what they decided to do is sort of cartoon it up a bit. And I know because I'm not going to make any friends here. I like it.
I didn't mind it either, Jim. I'm on your side, but I mean, like, they have the right. It's not like they've changed him and turned him orange.
No,
he's just a little bit more slimy or green. Like, he's more glossy, I thought, but whatever.
No, he's rounder. He's cuter. And more to the point, if you were paying attention in this trailer, you got to see his sons who are now teenagers.
Yeah, I have more critique about them and their dumb haircuts.
Yeah, well, but that's the thing. They're the children of Shrek and Fiona, so of course they're going to have red hair,
right?
And I want to say that's Fergus and Farkle. Is it Felicia? Is the girl? And in fact, that's the other thing that was interesting. If you remember the original teaser trailer that was dropped last year, that was when they revealed that Zendaya. Is actually voicing the teenage Felicia, and was kind of intrigued that, Zendaya, who coming off of Euphoria and who's about to co-star in Spider-Man Brand New Day, again, giant star, didn't have her talk in it, which, again, kind of an interesting choice. So.
Yeah, no, but lots of big hits. I hope Toy Story breaks all of the records. I'm going to give all credit to Conan O'Brien,
well,
as I'm sure he'll take it as well. There's nothing. Taylor Swift will have nothing to do with this either.
There we go. And again, that what I love about, not to spoil anything for anybody going into Toy Story 5, but Conan O'Brien, the folks from Pixar approached him and said, "We think that you would be the perfect voice for a potty training toy." And he's like, "Yep, I could see that. Okay, where's the script? What do you want me to say?"
I love it. But Jim, we're talking about stars here, and we have when you're going to be looking up the stars, you're also going to be seeing some fireworks here, and it's no surprise. I don't think it was anything that we haven't already kind of uncovered, and by we, the Universal community, it has finally been announced. Epic Universe is announced as the Universal Celestial Goodnight Fireworks Show. I think starting here soon, July 7th.
Yeah, and again, this is going to be held in Celestial Park, center of the park. In that, around that lagoon space that, what we were told, there's effectively seating for 5,000. Is that what they said? I mean...
listen, sometimes I don't know if there's 5,000 people that could fit in Celestial Park, but yeah, it's a big space. They definitely have, you could definitely see where there is seating now, and even when we were there was a section blocked off with the go away green, whatever planks kind of there. But this isn't no secret because the trademark of the name game came out, and just a couple days before, they were doing lots of testing, and they were warning people with signs saying, hey, we're doing testing. So I don't know, Jim, are you excited about a nighttime show at Epic? Do you think it's necessary, needed, or...
Well, I mean, it's, it literally is, the Goodnight, and the notion that when you think about the restaurants that are immediately adjacent to this, more to the point that, the amazing hotel, which, by the way, again, you and Lauren got to personally experience this past trip, right there. But the thing that intrigues me most about this project is that the thing we've been following about, the notion that conventioneers, folks who are just in town, across the way at the Orange County Convention Center are going to be allowed to blend into the park to experience this nighttime show and maybe do a little shopping and grab a snack. And that, to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm going to really enjoy seeing what the folks at Universal Entertainment have done with Universal Celestial Goodnight, which, by the way, is supposed to feature fireworks, dancing fountains, and music. But at the same time, I'm just going to be intrigued to see that in action, with these folks coming into the park for the night just to experience the show, and seeing long-term what that does to the park. Do these people go home and say, hey, I saw an amazing fireworks show while I was down in Orlando, and it's in that brand new park that, oh my God, that place looks amazing. The next time in town, I'm going to go. And more to the point, how many conventioneers are actually going to take advantage of this? Because, Eric, you've done trade shows, and by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you're like, and now after walking around, on a convention center, since 9 in the morning, you want me to go over to a theme park and stand in a crowd. No, I'm going back to my hotel room and lie down.
Yeah. Well, I'm interested to see, because they did have that one. It was the hair salon show down there.
Yeah,
and I know that they did it. I didn't look at any coverage to see who tried. I believe there was somebody in the theme park community that bought like a convention ticket to try it. I'm going to go seek that down. I just wanted to see if it went off without a hitch, how that went, if it was busy.
Yeah.
I think I'll have to find that, but I feel like I saw inkling of it, but I'm very curious.
Let's do some digging on that one. Let's see what we can find out. And speaking, though, of digging, is this another one of Alicia's permits? The permit princess? She dug this one out of the pile as well?
She's the one that brings it to the forefront to me, but I do think Theme Park Wizard on X was the one that found it, maybe. Now, granted, we knew about this permit. Now, this is the one that the rumor is, like, we're trying to figure out, is it a creature of the Black Lagoon? Is it a Bride of Frankenstein? Is it a show building? What is this? But we did kind of find out now that this permit that is behind, Dark Universe is actually for a 71,000 square foot, like, structure. So that is kind of between, I believe it's a little bit smaller than what is it? I had that written down somewhere. Can't find it, but
well, no. Interesting. Jim Schul, myself, and Len are working on a brand new Disney Unpacked about It's a Small World, and as a result of which, I have these figures up in my head right now.
Good.
All right, so like the small world that was built out in California to house the show building that was built out there to house the ride from Flushing Meadow was 64,000 square feet. All right, so that's a building with a boat ride. Mind you, the original that was built in Flushing Meadow, that was 94,000 square feet, but I think that had some other stuff in it. So this building, 71,500 square feet, kind of in the middle there, but that's a big building. That's housing a ride of size.
Right. Yeah. And now it's just a matter of what that ride is. And I mean, we do believe it is going to be indoor. If there's anything that we all kind of agree that everything needs to be indoor that they build now. So that way they have some attractions if it rains. But that is, in a sense, the show building does give us a little bit of insight into what's kind of going there. Now it's just a matter of figuring out what creature we're going to be kind of scared by, hopefully.
Yeah. We talked about this like on a recent show. It's like, I think you pointed out, it's like the bride is a pretty big presence over in the other attraction. And the notion of we're going to do a second ride on the bride.
Well, no, she's not in Unchained at all. So she's not there at all.
Really?
Yeah, she's a walk around character. So I mean that's creature is, but briefly. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. But what was it? The Dollywood ride? Isn't there a brand new Dollywood ride that they're trying? That's like some type of.
I can get you the actual name. I really need to clean my desk. I have this here. It's the Night Flight Expedition, which, by the way, somebody who worked at Universal actually, or excuse me, at Dollywood sent me info about this attraction, about when it might be opening, and I'm just saying late July, but I don't know where people would find out information about possibly the 27th. But yeah, that it's rumored that's when Night Flight Expedition will finally come online at Dollywood. So.
Well, that was kind of like the rumor of like, hey, that could be a great attraction or like a vehicle for the creature. But I guess we'll see. So either way, we know there's a building going on, but that's all we know.
Okay. So, now, speaking of horror-related stuff, we're going to circle back on Halloween Horror Nights, especially the Orlando version of this. And how do we feel about this news?
Oh, I don't know if it is news, Jim, because I'm just thinking to myself, granted, I haven't been there, but the news is basically Universal Orlando ends free after midnight parking for Halloween Horror Nights. So if I'm reading this correctly, there are literally people that show up after midnight, like 12:01, to park, to hang out in the park for 2 hours, and that was a big perk, and that they're no longer allowing that. Is that what I'm reading and understanding? Because there were some like upset, disgruntled individuals on the internet, but I'm like, you guys are way younger than I am if you're leaving at midnight and excited to save, like, to me.
Well, I think we're talking about folks who probably have the frequent fear pass. Yeah. And more to the point, if you're showing up at midnight, you are a Halloween Horror Night, aficionado, because you're the guy who knows, I parked the car, I walk in now, and virtually every maze is a walk-on between now and 2 o'clock in the morning, and so I can get my fix. I mean, mind you, you have to pick what side of the park you're on, because to be honest, you'll eat a lot of time walking across the park, to get to the various mazes. But on the other hand, if you're just doing the mazes that are concentrated off of, say, Production Central, the Dream, Illumination Avenue area. You could rack up 4 and 5 mazes without even breaking a sweat. But yeah, I would imagine if you're that type of person, you take pride in the fact I show up at Universal at midnight, I'd have to pay for parking, and I can get in 5 mazes before the event shuts down at 2. The fact that now you have to shell out $35 to park your car. Yeah. So
I don't know, man. I mean, I get it, but I just assume a lot of those people are probably pass holders, and if you have a certain level of pass holder, you get to park for free. So I don't know, but there was anger. I figured we would talk about that just briefly, but I was more confused, and maybe I'm just, sad that I'm not that young anymore. I would have to have a lot of Monster energy drinks to leave the house at
that's
midnight.
An appropriate beverage as you're headed out to Halloween Horror Night.
Right, passing all the zombies of the people like me that are leaving, because I could probably hang until midnight, but fun.
All right, well, now, we continue continue east. At this time, we were crossing the Atlantic, and we make our way all the way over to the UK, where we have news about the Universal Park that's being built in Great Britain, right?
Yeah, the official name, Universal United Kingdom Resort, which was announced just a couple weeks ago. We were, as I was traveling for work and then traveling for pleasure, this came out, and it pretty much was just the name of the park that came out. But I did find a couple interesting elements and people covering a couple news covered hypothetically saying what would be in this park. And we know we have that one concept art. And then, of course, as I'm down in Universal, I talk to all the, if there's a server or a cast member that is, just we're lingering by, I ask them questions. And part of it, we were at the Atlantic and we had a wonderful server and we were just asking questions and this and that and about what's going to go where and who's doing this. And he almost was saying, well, they're going to, because I was like, who's going to get the Wicked part here in the States? And he's like, well, they're not going to bring Wicked over here. Wicked's going to be over in the UK park. And I'm like, I don't remember seeing anything like that. So I don't know, Jim, when you look at the leaked concept art or just the concept art in general, there are some elements that people were talking about. And I just kind of want your general opinion on this. A lot of people were saying James Bond. Did you hear it as a stunt show? Does that sound like something they could pull off?
Oh, it is. James Bond has been the hill that many folks who work in themed entertainment, have chosen to die on. I mean, remember, you and I have talked previously about, Once Upon a Time, Lights, Motor, Action at Disney. In fact, that was supposed to be a James Bond themed thrill ride, stunt show. That, you were supposed to enter the stadium through Q's laboratory. That was, part of the indoor Q space. Q space at Q's lab. That's funny.
Look at that.
And, so that this would be on Universal radar for its United Kingdom park. Now, where this gets interesting is, and it's kind of circling around to the Harry Potter thing. I mean, face it, Bond is in the middle of rebranding. At this point, they're seeking out a new James Bond. They're writing a new script, so it gets a little interesting. If you're going to build a Bond attraction in your park, which Bond are you doing? I mean, are you doing Sean Connery? Are you doing Mr. Craig?
You go with Goldeneye. That's mine. From Nintendo 64. What, Piers?
Yeah. Now, on the other hand, Harry Potter, same thing. You have this giant effort going on right now. Debuting in December, the first Harry Potter limited series. And remember, that's, Warner Brothers Discovery through HBO is committing to 7 seasons. Wow. And the gimmick of this limited series is it's going to do what the film series didn't do. It's going to try to do the entire book in each case. But so if you're a Universal, what do? Do you default to the Daniel Radcliffe Harry Potter because that's what you know, and you're familiar with it, or do you roll the dice and go with what HBO is up to because that's what the next generation of Harry Potter fans are going to fall in love with, and you maybe want them to be excited and come to your theme park?
Jim, I think they're going with the other option, which is they're not having something for Harry Potter at UK because they think that everybody can just go up the street and see where the stuff was filmed. That was the rumors that are coming out, and I guess if you look at the concept art, you don't really see anything Potter-esque, nor do you think they would show that. The other things that was very interesting is that the coaster, people are hypothetically saying it's going to be a Back to the Future coaster, which I'm all for in many aspects. And then somebody was saying almost they saw Lord of the Rings stuff, which is...
Well, I mean, the Lord of the Rings has been so often rumored In fact, I've talked with the creatives at Universal where once upon a time there was a plan to pull down Toon Lagoon and change that into a Lord of the Rings section. I mean, remember, they've got that Circus Pandemonium stunt show thing just sitting there forever, empty. We could do a Swords and Sorceries Lord of the Rings show in there. But again, that's licensing other people's IP. And Mark Woodbury, the new head of the Universal Parks and Resorts, he's not a fan of that. In fact, that's why you've heard so much talk about Back to the Future lately, both in Florida and, for the UK. It's like, we have this property that people love, so let's give them Hill Valley.
I'd be all for it. All for it. Who owns Paddington Bear? Because that's the last thing on here that I'm like, all right, Paddington, okay. And are they going to go very UK in this park, obviously?
Well, I mean, Paddington, is that Pathé? I'm forgetting. I mean, what's kind of interesting is that Paddington, has the three lovely films. They did a great job with them. And by the way, there's a Paddington musical that opened on the West End that did quite well and is supposedly coming to Broadway this season. So he's a character who's having a moment. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if he showed up in the Universal United Kingdom park. But at the same time, that's a licensing situation.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, long story short, folks, I know people have been staring quite intently at that piece of concept art, but that's always something dangerous to do because there is a genuine art to a concept painting for a theme park. You have to give the impression it has a lot of very distinct stuff that just isn't there. And, back in the day, Walt would put things in paintings, to deliberately catch your eye, whether it's a balloon that's tethered, an aerial balloon that's coming up out of the park, or and later on the Imagineers would do things like clouds or shafts of sunlight to obscure the fact that, this side of the park, we have no idea what we're doing. But look at the pretty birds.
Well, I think by 2031, when this is going to open, we'll know what all these things are, and we'll have fun stuff to cover.
True. That's 5 years from now.
Yeah, and we'll have good reason to go visit our buddy Chris Cox over in his home country and trying out the this new park. So I'm excited for it, and I'm excited. I just look at a lot of this stuff from stateside is if they're building things there, that could be very easy for them to take that information and those blueprints and stuff and put it in these weird lands that they're destroying over here, like Lost Continent, maybe Simpsons. So, that's why I kind of get a little bit more interested in that stuff.
Speaking of which, I don't know if you saw that BioReconstruct just shared some of the work that's going on. Poseidon's Fury, Triton's Trident is down.
It's down. Yeah, it was there the other day when I was there, and now it's down. And I did sneak a little bit through. Like there was some scrim when you're going down the Hogwarts Express that you could kind of see through. And boy, they have that sucker. The whole building is down, and that is. But we did get to eat at Mythos, so I can talk about that on an upcoming episode.
Cool.
So all types of fun stuff. We were trying to hit some of these places that are going away, including the Hot Dog Hall of Fame. So we have all of that, but lots of content that we can bring to you in other shows. But I think it's about time for that feature. I'm excited to hear about this Aliens that Steven Spielberg's all about.
All right, then let's take a quick break here, folks, and disclose what Spielberg also almost made in addition to Disclosure Day. But before that, there's this.
This episode is brought to you by Prime. What if you had one more chance with the one that got away?
Sam, you came home.
Based on the best-selling novel from Carly Fortune. Every Year After follows childhood friends Sam and Percy as they reunite in the dreamy, nostalgic lakeside town of Barry's Bay.
Love can be hard to find. So if you're lucky enough to find that person, never let go.
A second chance at first love. Every Year After, now streaming only on Prime.
When you need to build up your team to handle the growing chaos at work, use Indeed Sponsored Jobs. It gives your job post the boost it needs to be seen and helps reach people with the right skills, certifications, and more. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit at Indeed.com/podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need a hiring hero? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
This episode is brought to you by Redfin. You're listening to a podcast, which means you're probably multitasking. Maybe even scrolling home listings on Redfin, saving homes without expecting to get them. But Redfin isn't just built for endless browsing. It's built to help you find and own a home. With agents who close twice as many deals, when you find the one, you've got a real shot at getting it. Get started at redfin.com. Own the dream.
And we're back, folks. Okay, so Steven Spielberg's, and Eric, I can't wrap my head around this. Depending on whether or not, if you count Duel, all right, that's the Steven Spielberg movie of the week that he made for ABC in November of 71, but it did get released to theaters in Europe of the following year, in October of 72. If you count that, Steven Spielberg has directed to date 36 movies that have been released theatrically. And with the most recent one, Disclosure Day, arriving in theaters Friday last, June 12th. Did okay. In fact, had the fifth highest opening for a Spielberg original. And that's the thing. If you think about, this is Steven Spielberg, who directed the bulk of the Indiana Jones films, a bunch of the Jurassic Park movies. This is a guy who has some pretty top-earning sequels. But anyway, as of right now, $48 million in ticket sales stateside, $49 million overseas. Will have earned $100 million at the worldwide box office by the time this podcast airs. But we were just talking about Harry Potter and the Wizarding World and the Universal Parks. And did you see where Spielberg, while he was out doing interviews for Disclosure Day, talked about how he was supposed to direct the very first Harry Potter movie?
No. I thought he was going to say that he created it, and he.
Well, interestingly enough, he did have a pretty significant hand in how the film turned out. For example, Maggie Smith was cast as Professor McGonagall on Spielberg's recommendation because he had worked with her on Hook. She played the elder Wendy Darling to Robin Williams' Peter Pan. Yeah. Likewise, Spielberg, knew Richard Harris, liked him. That's how he wound up playing Dumbledore. And Spielberg evidently was like, Robbie Coltrane, if you want somebody for Hagrid's, that's perfect. So he's, and this is the thing, he's just come off of directing Saving Private Ryan. Okay, that's released to theaters in July of 98. And so his very next thing is supposed to be Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So he's working on it. And then Stanley Kubrick dies in March of 99. And again, Sorcerer's Stone is in pre-production, and Stanley Kubrick had been working on AI, artificial intelligence, for decades at this point. And Stanley's family reaches out to Steven and says, it would just be such a shame if this project that our dad worked on for so long never came to fruition. And to honor Kubrick, Spielberg, at this point, hands off Sorcerer's Stone to Chris Columbus, who, remember, is actually a Spielberg protege. I mean, he wrote the screenplay for Gremlins, Goonies, and even Young Sherlock Holmes. And, people tend to forget that these days because, again, when they look at Chris Columbus, it's like, oh, yeah, the Home Alone guy.
Right.
But Chris then goes on and it's like, well, Steven plowed the road. Sure, Maggie Smith, Richard Harris, Robbie Coltrane, absolutely. We're going to stick with those. And he directs the first two Harry Potter movies, Sorcerer's Stone, December 2001, and then Chamber of Secrets in December 2002. But Eric, you gotta, again, I know we've talked about on the show about, really, Steven Spielberg did Dark Universe? But there's a part of me now that is genuinely intrigued by what would Potter have ultimately been like if Spielberg had actually gone ahead and at least directed the first film. By the way, AI actually makes that out into theaters before Sorcerer's Stone. That arrives in theaters June of 2001, whereas the Sorcerer's Stone is December of that same year. And by the way, Warner Brothers releases both of them.
Oh, okay. Was AI the one with Robin Williams? Am I thinking of the right movie?
I think you're thinking of Bicentennial
yes,
Man.
Yeah, all right, sorry.
Okay. And by the way, also directed by Chris Columbus. Okay.
All right, so they're just everywhere. All right.
All right. Well, anyway, back now to Disclosure Day, which, by the way, people seem to have enjoyed. It's got an 81% freshness rating over at Rotten Tomatoes, 72 audience rating.
And did Drew Taylor get quoted in this? Did I hear that right?
Yes. In fact, Drew was rather pleased watching the NBA finale. The Disclosure Day ad came up, and there's Drew Taylor, from The Wrap, and so
good for Drew.
That's great. For Drew. Okay, so anyway, Spielberg makes a bunch of UFO films, and we get the original Close Encounters back in December of '77. We get the special edition of Close Encounters in August of 1980. Did you ever see that?
No, I didn't know there was one. I might have talked about it or something like that early on.
Well, again, what's interesting about the first edition of Close Encounters, it got released, but it basically got taken away from Spielberg. It's like, you're done. We need a movie. You're done, pal. And but it made enough money that Spielberg went back to them and could I finish it now? Could I have a little more money to finish the movie? And one of the scenes, he actually brought Richard Dreyfuss back to shoot this scene, but it's the first version of the film ends with Dreyfuss walking up the ramp going into the ship, and you're left to imagine what it looks like. And, and so Spielberg felt like, well, I should probably deliver on that. So he brings Dreyfuss back, puts him in the uniform, has him walk inside and look up. And sadly, evidently, the inside of a UFO is a mall. It was like, oh, well, okay, lots of balconies and what looks like a Spencer's Gifts. Just interesting choice. But all right, anyway, and on the heels of the special edition of Close Encounters, August of 1980, we of course get E.T. the Extraterrestrial in June of 82. Then, some 20 plus years later, we get War of the Worlds in June of 2005, and finally now Disclosure Day. But today we're going to talk about the UFO movie that Steven Spielberg almost made, and that was called Night Skies. But to set this up properly, we got to jump back to June of 75. Jaws gets released to theaters, and again, released by Universal Pictures. Spielberg then goes and makes Close Encounters, the original Close Encounters for Columbia Pictures. That gets released December of 77. And that's a huge hit. And Columbia immediately says, ooh, we want a Close Encounters sequel. And Spielberg is hesitant because, well, remember, we talked about this in the show. He was offered the opportunity to make the Jaws sequel. He said no. Universal makes a movie anyway. Jaws 2, which comes out in June of 78, makes a buttload of money, but Spielberg's like, oh my God, that's a terrible movie. And he felt bad about how badly that turned out. And remember, we were just talking about how Close Encounters wasn't really finished when it was released. So it's like, I don't want to necessarily make a sequel. I want to do something different. And then in July of 78, Animal House comes out, and Spielberg's like, ooh, I want to do one of those. I want to do a big, loud comedy with the guys from Saturday Night Live. And so his friend Robert Zemeckis, and Bob Gale, the Back to the Future guys, they've worked with John Milius on a script called The Great Los Angeles Air Raid, which, by the way, based on an actual incident that happened in Los Angeles over the night of February 24th into the morning of February 25th, 1942. This was just 3 months after Pearl Harbor had happened, Eric, and nobody to this day knows what happened. But Los Angeles fell into a panic. They thought they were being bombed by the Japanese, and the town went crazy for one night. But anyway, Spielberg hears this story and says, ooh, big action comedy, which is so expensive to make. Columbia and Universal have to team up to make this movie. 1941 comes out, December of 79. Universal has the rights to release this movie domestically. Columbia has the rights overseas. Universal gets the short end of the stick because this is a movie that really makes fun of Americans and doesn't necessarily play all that well domestically. Where, on the other hand, the fact that it makes Americans look silly makes it a huge hit overseas. But all right, so now it's August of 1980. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, the special edition, comes out, and again, Spielberg had been given an additional $1.5 million to add new scenes to the movie. And the re-release doesn't do all that well at the box office. So Columbia, executives there are like, hey, I mean, we gave you the money for 1941, and we did okay. We gave you the money for a special edition of Close Encounters. That didn't, so we want you now to do an actual sequel to Close Encounters. And Spielberg's like, how about this instead? How about I make a movie out of a story I cut out of the original Close Encounters? And they're like, tell me more. And we will tell you more after this ad break.
You have one new message. Translating. Disney and Pixar's Hoppers is now available on Disney+.
You could say that again.
Critics are calling it Pixar's funniest movie ever and a wildly entertaining ride. Blizzard Potato. It's certified fresh and verified hot.
Now we party.
This is incredible!
Wow, I am clearing the rest of the day.
Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, now available on Disney+. Rated PG.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Get 2 times membership rewards points per dollar on eligible purchases in key business categories, as well as on each eligible purchase of $5,000 or more, on up to $2 million in eligible purchases per calendar year. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
And we're back. All right, we're picking up now about Night Skies, the UFO movie that Steven Spielberg almost made back in the early 1980s. And I mentioned that what Spielberg wanted to do was take a story that had been cut out of Close Encounters. And that's not entirely true because there is a scene in the movie that's sort of influenced by this story. I mean, do you remember early in the movie, Melinda Dillon is home with her son Barry, and she sees weird lights in the woods next to the house, and then something is trying to break into the house, like coming up through the heating vents, and whatever it is, they snatch Barry. They snatch her. And by the way, spoiler alert, Barry's okay. He comes back at the end of the movie, walks out of the UFO. Evidently, he was finished shopping at the mall.
That's it. He got a cool looking poster from Spencer's.
There we go. There we go. All right, but it turns out that this story about a family out in the woods and aliens trying to break out of the house or break into the house based on an actual incident that happened in Christian County, Kentucky, on the outskirts of a town called Hopkinsville. And this was back in August of 1955. And as the story goes, one night, the police force of Hopkinsville have this, 5 adults and 7 children roll up to the police station and you have to help us. Our house is being attacked by these little aliens that have come out of a spaceship. They have been trying to break into our house for 4 hours now. And the police are like, what have you been drinking? And they go out and investigate, and the house is definitely shot up. And evidently, but they're like, we don't see any aliens. But the interesting thing is the family goes back, and the very next morning, the neighbors come by, and the family's gone. Some say they abandoned the house because of the alien attack, and some say that maybe the aliens got them.
True story here. This is in newspapers and stuff, huh?
There we go. There we go again. Hopkinsville alien attack, August 55. Spielberg, while he is researching Close Encounters, is told about this incident by ufologist J. Allen Hynek. And he's intrigued, but there is just not enough screen time left in Close Encounters to do a full-size version of the story justice. And more to the point, that's not the movie that Spielberg's making this time around. He's making a movie about nice aliens. They bring you back from the mall. But now Spielberg's new plan is, to make Columbia happy and to prevent them from, on their own, making an awful Close Encounters sequel like Jaws 2. What Spielberg proposes is look, we'll make a UFO movie based on what happened in Hopkinsville in 55. And so he writes the treatment. He then tries to recruit Lawrence Kasdan to write the full script for this. But Kasdan, who'd done the script for Raiders of the Lost Ark, he has to beg off because George Lucas has just asked him, I'm having trouble with the script for Empire Strikes Back. Lee Brackett, who wrote the first draft, she died. Can you come in and finish this? So Spielberg turns around and winds up hiring John Sayles, the gentleman who wrote and directed The Return of the Secaucus 7. And now, mind you, Spielberg is not gonna direct this. He's going to produce it. But he's already he's got a guy in mind, Tobe Hooper, the director of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie. Because, again, Spielberg wants this to be scary.
Yeah.
And by the way, Hooper and Spielberg do eventually work together. Hooper's the guy who directed the original Poltergeist. And this project, Eric, is supposed to go into production right after Spielberg finishes shooting Raiders. And so they turn around and they hire, effects and makeup genius Rick Baker to do the aliens. And now, mind you, the script originally has 11 aliens in it. And Rick's like, no, help me out here. And so they cut down the number of aliens in the evil aliens that are consulting this to 5. And Rick starts to work on full animatronic figures that, are going to be these evil gray aliens. But anyway, we're now in Tunisia. Steven Spielberg, he's shooting Raiders, and while he's on the set, he talks with Melissa Matheson, and that's Harrison Ford's girlfriend, who was also a screenwriter. In fact, she wrote the script for Black Stallion, a wonderful children's film. And anyway, Spielberg on the set confesses to Matheson that I'm getting tired of making these big effects-filled movies, and I would like just once to make something personal, something small. And so the two of them, and they start talking about Night Skies, because again, next thing coming up, it's going to be a scary effects-filled film, and Melissa's like, how would you make that personal and small? And so she reads the script and she comes back to him and says, well, hey, look at the ending of this thing. And so picture this. This is the end of the movie, Eric. Buddy, that's the smallest member of the crew of this alien craft. He didn't like that his crew members were terrorizing this human family. So he gets on the ship's communication system and effectively calls the space police, who then show up and force these mean aliens to stop terrorizing this human family and leave Earth. But just before this alien ship full of evil aliens leaves Earth, Scar, the head of the evil aliens, he takes Buddy and throws him out of the ship, stranding him on Earth. And the film, the last shot, the last image of the film is Buddy terrified, alone, and on Earth. And he's looking up at the sky as you see like the shadow of a hawk swooping in to sort of grab him and eat him. And Melissa goes to Spielberg and says, well, what if your story started here? What if it's about a little alien who's stranded on Earth and suddenly needs help? And you know what we do? We put him just outside of a suburb like the one you grew up in Arizona. And you, as a little boy, finds this alien. You know, what do you think about that? You know, and so this is the thing. While Spielberg is directing Raiders during the day, he and Matheson are working at night to turn John Sayles' script for Night Skies into E.T., the extraterrestrial. All right, and now, just so we're clear here, somebody eventually has to call Rick Baker, who had spent $70,000 building scary aliens, put months of effort into it. And by the way, you can go online right now and look at the Rick Baker. The images have leaked out over the past, how many years is it now? 1982? Oh my God, 35? No, 45. Holy cow. But yeah. They're out there, and they're scary. And by the way, Columbia is also pissed because it's like, wait a minute, you said we'd have a scary box office hit for the summer of 1982. This thing you're showing us right now, it's a Disney movie. And so they put E.T. into turnaround. You know, it's like they literally hand it back to Spielberg and say, we don't want to make this movie. You can take it anywhere else you want.
Oh, man.
All right. But wait, it gets better, you know, because they said it's a Disney movie. Who does he take it to first? Disney.
Oh, who's in charge in 82? Is this Ron
Miller? This is Ron Miller.
And he didn't eat it up?
Well, no, this is where it's interesting. Because Spielberg had already had some dealings with Disney. I mean, remember, when you watch Close Encounters, you actually hear the When You Wish Upon a Star. He got the rights from Disney. Likewise, if you watch 1941, there's a great scene in it where Robert Stack actually goes to the movie theater and watches Dumbo. So, you know, so he comes to them with the script for this Disney movie. And Eric, where this falls apart is that Spielberg was a pioneer in Hollywood. You know, the notion was that, you know, I work with a group of people over and over again. Like, for example, John Williams. He always does the scores for my movies. Yeah. And as a result of which, I always make sure that John is taken care of. He gets salary, but he also gets, you know, a cut of the movie's profits. And Disney's like, whoa, or Disney, you know, we don't share the money. You're an employee here, and we'll pay you, but no. We keep the money here, and so this is why E.T. winds up at Universal, And by the way, you know, when Ron Miller finally did the following year get to see E.T. in theaters, he admitted, yes, this is a movie we could have made here at Disney. Says the only thing I would have changed is, you know, that part where Drew Barrymore's Gertie, the little girl character, turns to her brother and calls him penis breath. He said, I don't think we could do that line here. But again, just to be fair here, there was also that executive at Columbia Pictures Pictures, who also turned down E.T., which, by the way, did quadruple the box office worldwide that Close Encounters did. And by the way, Eric, just to close up here, I have a copy of John Sayles' script here at the house, and I'm just going to flat out say it. It, even today, would be an amazing movie. It is scary. It is thrilling. It's very much like a John Ford film, one of the Western adventures. It's kind of a mix of The Searchers and Drums Across the Mohawk. And there's one especially memorable scene toward the end of the film where, here's the setup. You got to understand that this farm family has an autistic son. He's never spoken, but he's the one who befriends Buddy. And it's this boy that Buddy comes to care for and figures that, I have to do something. I got to call the space police. And so, again, the space police arrive. So picture this, the mother and father, this weird lights going on outside. So they open the front door of their house, and there in the sky over their house is a spaceship the size and it's basically the mothership from the original Close Encounters. But they're standing on their front step is like a 7 or 8 foot tall alien. But the alien has his hands on the shoulder of the son, the autistic son, and is using him as a device to communicate with the parents. So there's this amazing scene. Again, this child has never spoken to his parents, and suddenly in this clear adult voice, the policeman talking to them through the child is like, "We are sorry this happened to your family. We will see that these perpetrators are caught and punished. We promise that they will never bother you again." And then the alien takes his hands off the kid's shoulder and he collapses into his mother and his father's arm, and he's just the way he was, a second ago. He's autistic, he's mute, and it's like, and just, the way Sayles describes the heartbreak of the kid talked to them, something they've wanted their entire life, but it happened under these circumstances. Anyway, long story short, great script. I wish that somebody at Amblin would dig this thing out of the files and just take it to a streaming service. Let somebody produce this. This is an absolutely killer film. But one final note to end the story here. So again, Steven Spielberg doesn't make his super scary UFO movie that feature aliens that, remember, from the Hopkinsville description, the family that was scared out of their house described these things as goblins. But 2 years later, he did produce a film called Gremlins, which is directed by Joe Dante. So, so some ideas never die, never go away. And I'm really hoping that at some point this script from 1981, so dear Lord, 45 years ago, somebody finally makes this. And hey, Universal, you got a movie studio. Well, what is the point? You got what is it, Peacock? You got a streaming service. Yeah. Go make this thing.
Right. Well, we originally thought that might be this new Disclosure Day kind of movie. When we remember, because we've been following it, obviously, since they were like, hey, Steven Spielberg's making a UFO movie. And we kind of were excited and said, hey, maybe this brings something back. But I did not see Disclosure Day yet. I will tell you, they did have that nice little Steven Spielberg museum in the Hollywood area. So we went through that, and they did have a display where you would get your picture taken, and it would turn your eye into that crazy like Disclosure Day eye type thing. So yeah, so it was nice. So we'll have to try to get out and see this. But there's lots of movies to be seen right now.
Oh God, yeah.
I feel bad for someone who has to do like 7 podcasts covering everything. Luckily, I just have to watch a couple here and there.
Yeah, Again, Nancy has just today had carpal tunnel surgery done on her left hand, so we're sticking kind of close to home.
Yeah.
But at some point in the future, I will get out to see Toy Story 5, so I can then see those 3 animation trailers that we were talking about. And I'll see if again, maybe up on the big screen, I'll get what people find so offensive about the redesigned Shrek for Shrek 5. But so far, I think he looks cute and cuddly.
Well, I'm sure there'll be more Shrek stuff coming in the coming year, just like Toy Story has been haunting us for the last year. So there's lots to be done. But thanks, Jim. That was fantastic story and kind of makes me want to go see Disclosure Day and see what Steven's been up to.
There we go. And with that, folks, that will do it for this week's edition of the Epic Universal Podcast. And by the way, if you have topics or suggestions for future shows, stories you'd like us, Eric and I, to cover here, please feel free to send those along to us through social media. And beyond that, again, apologies for not getting a podcast out the door last week. We'll do better. But thanks for listening. And on behalf of Ms. Hersey, we will be back next week.